Welcome to What is Going Om, for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on OMTimes' flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. As children, we all dream of living in an enchanted world, and then we grow up. Overtaken by the demands and distractions of life in the 3D world, we dismiss magic, miracles, and enchanted worlds as existing only in fairy tales. But is that true? Not according to today's guests, who, despite the trials and tribulations of living in an increasingly challenging era, have between them created an enchanted world which allows them to fulfill not just their own dreams and desires, but those of millions of people around the world. Monte Farber is a philosopher, psychic, tarot scholar, musician, prolific author, self-help guide, and an astrological counsellor to numerous celebrities and business titans. Amy Zerner is a visionary artist, illustrator, fashion, book and oracle designer, and together they have created numerous books and oracles, DVDs and CDs, which have helped millions answer questions, find deeper meaning and follow their spiritual paths. A powerfully creative couple, Monte Farber and Amy Zerner, join us now to talk about how they created and sustain their enchanted world, which blends astrology, goddesses, oracles and divination systems with stunning visionary design, art couture fashion and their latest predictions. And their newest books, Mindful Astrology, Finding Peace of Mind according to your sun, moon and rising sign, and their new Goddess Oracle, which we'll be talking about during the show. Monty, Amy, welcome.
Hi, Sandie.
Hi, Sandie. We're excited to be here.
Good to have you both. My goodness, with all those numerous best-selling titles, including the Enchanted Tarot, Karma Cards, the Creativity Oracle, the Enchanted Love Tarot, Quantum Affirmations, Chakra Meditation Kit, Astrology for Wellness. My goodness, it goes on and on. I mean, that's just a few of the 3 million books and oracles currently in print in 18 languages. But between these and a marriage that's lasted several decades, it's clear that you two haven't just created an enchanted world, but also an enchanted relationship.
Well, we're very fortunate. I mean, when people say, how do you do it? I say, well, marry Amy. Because she's just...
That's the easy answer.
Well, it's true.
And you can guess what I say. I say marry Monty. But we've been together since we were 23, 24, and so lucky to have found each other. But we both were on the spiritual path at that time, and I think that's such an important ingredient because that means that you want to grow, you want to understand the other person, and we've found all these tools, including astrology and oracles, that help us tune in to the energy that gives you more understanding.
Right, and we basically just followed our bliss, like the late Joseph Campbell said, and then when doors would open, we would go through them. You know, a lot of times doors open for people, and they might be afraid, or I guess fear is the destroyer. But we've always gone through the open doors, and it's led to the enchanted world.
Yeah, well, yeah. And that's something that I want to discuss a little bit more as we go on, because every one of us really, although we let go of that belief, we never really let go of that dream that we can create an enchanted world, and you're proof that we can. But tell us first, Amy, let's start with you. What brought you both together?
Well, I've always been an artist. I was raised in a family of artists, and when I met Monty in 1974, he was a musician, and we just were very magnetized to each other because of our creative passions. And Monty was studying religion at that time, comparative religion. I was studying astrology. And so I learned so much from him and still do, and he learned so much from me, and I think that kind of mutual respect just creates, a wonderful haven where creativity can blossom.
So how did you actually get going on this particular path of producing all of these incredible interactive personal development tools?
It started at the parties. We live out in the Hamptons. And
started at a party.
Right. And as we always like to say, we met at the filming of a porno movie, but that's a story for another day.
It was another party.
It was another party. So parties have been very, very good to us. And I used to tell people astrology things, and I've always been pretty good at it, and I'm not shy, being a Leo rising for all you astrologers out there. And people would say, oh, my God, I wish you'd come up with a way that I don't necessarily need you here at my party to be so fun. And then I invented karma cards, which is an astrology card game that tells the future while it's teaching you astrology. And it came out on Penguin Books at the time. Now it's out with Sterling Ethos and Barnes & Noble. That's their publisher. And it's been going since 1988.
I think one thing led to the other. Then we did the Enchanted Tarot. But way back in the 70s, we came upon a Ouija board in a thrift shop. And believe it or not, that gave us a lot of names, and inspired us with a lot of ideas. It gave us a name for karma cards. It gave us a name for the psychic circle. That's a talking board that we invented in 1993.
We actually have the notes in case anybody thinks we're kidding.
So in other words, we used oracles and tools that inspired us, and then we wanted to share and invent our own. It just gave us so many ideas of how we could bring our own take and modernize the tarot and modernize oracles and combine my art with Monte's words. And I guess we've been inspired ever since, and that's why we've done so many of them.
Your intro talks about the intersection between science and spirituality, and that's always been my goal personally.
Being an Aquarius.
Yeah, when Amy said that I was studying comparative religions, I've always been interested in the intersection, and at some point I realized that quantum mechanics is always talking about the smallest scientific particles, but consciousness is the smallest particle. It's smaller than quarks and all those weird little names that they have at the CERN reactor. And I actually wrote a book called Quantum Affirmations, which treats consciousness as a particle and applies the laws of quantum physics to it. I think it's a pretty cool idea, but that's why I get excited when a show like yours has us on, because your audience is the kind of people that are looking for that, the intersection between science and spirituality.
And you've just read my mind. In fact, you've jumped ahead in the show because I was going to talk about. No, let's go there now. Tell me more about that, because I don't think anybody has approached it or described it in quite that way. People talk about the law of attraction, etc., but nobody has really defined, the mechanics of that.
I know. I when I tell people the elevator pitch for Quantum Affirmations is it's the secret that the secret left out, because they say we can do all this work and you can get all this stuff and you can have that bicycle, but they don't tell you how. And Quantum Affirmations, the book, and my technique is all about approaching consciousness as a particle and using those laws. So you have quantum entanglement, which Einstein called spooky action at a distance, in which case two particles that are rubbed together and then move to different sides of the universe, you move one, the other one moves by itself, and that's called quantum entanglement. So Quantum Affirmations is all about entangling yourself with one of the probable futures that are implied in this moment, because I know, as Niels Bohr said, another one of the inventors, if you want to call it, of quantum physics, said, if you don't think it's, to paraphrase, he said, if you don't think it's weird, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
So we're trying to, in Quantum Affirmations, we're trying to quantum entangle ourselves with the future that we want to get to, because quantum physics talks about multiple futures, and that time not necessarily only goes forward, it goes backwards too.
But one important ingredient is to know what you want, and I think that's true when you're consulting an oracle or going to a reader, to frame the question very specifically, because sometimes people think, they want to meet the one or the perfect person, but they kind of generalize it instead of being very specific as to why they want to meet someone. Is it because they're lonely? Is it because they want to share their passion with another person? So a lot of what Monte puts in his book, and we also describe in the directions for our oracles, is to really hone down your question specifically to what you want, and that helps you manifest it.
Right, because the ancients said, if you know your question, you know your answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this Quantum Affirmations is a course in your mystery school, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and it's something I'm quite proud of. Unfortunately, there's there's a lot of books out there that are trying to tell you about how you can manifest your life, and we were friends with Louise Hay, who is sort of the queen of affirmations, and we love her and her affirmations work. The trouble is when people do affirmations, normal affirmations, at a certain point their body and their mind and their spirit knows that what they're saying is not necessarily true, or they'll, I want to meet the one. So you see the one, and then here comes the one, and the one maybe is allergic to cats, and you have 5 cats, and here comes the one, and he's a slob, and here comes, I think it's important with quantum entanglement to see the situation as realistically as you can imagine, and at the very basis, when we're talking about here comes the one, you're not going to be alone anymore. And do you like that? Do you like the fact that you have to think about somebody else? And to see it that realistically helps you to quantum entangle.
The good and the bad. That makes it a whole vision.
Right.
Yeah,
so it's very reality-based, because, nothing is so good that it doesn't come with little... They used to say it comes with the territory.
Well, we like to be realistic, and, even though we live in the enchanted world, to us that's reality. So in all of our decks, we have a whole range of life experience. And you know how somebody doesn't want to see a bad card, but it's not really bad. It's reality. It's a hurdle, a lesson, something that will help us grow, something that is part of human life, so it's not all good all the time.
Right, exactly.
And the thing I've always loved about astrology is forewarned is forearmed.
Absolutely.
So then you can change tack, you can do something with it. You can turn it into a positive.
Yes.
Looking at that course on your website, you have a fun 5-step process, and you talk about the 5 steps. Identify your goal. What do you really want to manifest? Examine your history with your goal. Just take us quickly through the rest of those steps.
Well, the first one is the most important. What do you want? Because when people come to me as a counselor, that's the question I ask them, and a lot of times they don't know. They want to be read, and I'm like, nope, that's not how I work. So you have to identify your goal, and then what's your history with your goal? Why do you think you haven't gotten it? And then the third one is identify your gift, because talking about physics, when you have negativity attached and you haven't gotten what you wanted, so you have a charged particle, and charged particles don't move through things the way quantum tunneling happens, and so you want to reduce that negative charge that you have because you failed in the past to get what you want. So then you identify something that flows to you effortlessly and endlessly, a real tongue twister for me, and for
instance, if you're a good cook, you visualize that, or if you're an artist, you visualize your goal coming out of your pen or your pencil. It's like a fun way to help you make the movie in your mind.
Right, or if you're a good pet owner, or if you're a good parent, or anything that is not that's neutrally charged, and then you, in your mind's eye, you blend your gift with your goal. So as Amy said, you see what you want. Let's say you want money, with nothing wrong with that. See it coming out of your pen if you're a writer, or you see being a nice person. We can all do that, and that produces things. It stirs the pot, and then finally you do what I call a quantumplation, which is
I love that word.
Thank you. It's a visualization. And the word contemplation has the same basis as temple, and a temple where auguries were done. Auguries are predicting the future. So you do a contemplation, which is a visualization that is as real as you can make it, including all the negative things. And instead of saying, because this is what people do, they affirmations, and they do affirmations, and they love affirmations, and the minute they see something negative, they stop doing the affirmations. But with quantum affirmations, you want to see that negative, and you want to experience it as a way of telling your subconscious, who's going to lead you to where you're going, I can handle that. And so that's the essence of the 5-step.
And it works. We do it all the time, and you have to practice and do it. Monte says, a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes at night, or just once a day, whatever you can handle. But to keep doing it, it's sort of like brushing your teeth. You can't just do it once.
Right, and the enchanted world is really we work with energy. That's what we're all talking about. I'm sure your show that's the same thing every week, because we're all talking about energy. Like Amy's art appears to be incredibly intense or incredibly beautiful, and she'll put a reproduction of a human form in the middle of this incredibly enchanted world. But what she's talking about is energy. And when I first met her, getting back to your question, I saw her work as the best art I'd ever seen in my life. I was absolutely gobsmacked by it.
We're going to take a short break now. You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and my guest today, internationally renowned visionary artist, illustrator and oracle designer Amy Zerner, and astrological consultant, tarot scholar and self-help author Monte Farber, whose many best-selling projects have sold millions of books, oracles, DVDs and CDs around the world. And we're talking about how they created an enchanted world for themselves and how their beautiful collaborations are helping millions of others to do the same. We'll be back with more from Monte and Amy after this break.
The future of internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mental health. Most people think it means mental illness. Most people are wrong. Mental health doesn't apply to just some of us. It applies to everyone. We're all susceptible to anxiety and depression. They're human conditions. And no person should ever feel embarrassed, ashamed, or be discriminated against for being human. Cracked the podcast strips away the shame, fear, and stigma by expanding the conversation into areas less often visited. From brain and body chemistry, hormones, food, nutrition, trauma, and the microbiome, to pharmaceutical drugs, psychedelic substances, meditation, visionary experiences, and spiritual awakenings. Cracked the podcast will explore them all, including the notion that, for many, breakdown can be the beginning of breakthrough. For in the words of singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen, there is a crack in everything. It's where the light gets in. Cracked the podcast, slaying the dragons of mental health. Join co-hosts Sandie Sedgbeer and Rebecca Shaper on the first and third Thursday of every month at 12 noon Eastern Time.
Coping-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back. Monte, when you first embarked on this career and the very first project that you produced together, I mean, it's easy to slot Amy into that. I mean, she was already, an amazing artist, but you didn't come from a writing background, did you? Did you have any idea that this was going to be part of your life path?
I had not a clue. I just gave it a whirl, and I had written songs, and some bad poetry, but I never thought I would be a writer. No,
But what's predicted by my friend who got us into astrology, way back in the early 70s, a wonderful person, Rupert Smith, he looked at Monte's chart and said that he would be a writer.
Yeah, he said the music's okay, but you'll make it as a writer. And I thought even then, because you hear what you want to hear, I thought he was saying that I'd make it as a songwriter. But no. Yeah.
But Monte always wanted to help people. I mean, that was his goal in his music, and he wrote very spiritual lyrics and uplifting songs. But, obviously he did have the gift, and, when he put his mind to it, it's amazing the way he writes.
And the 70s and the 80s, when I would do songs like We Are One and In Another Lifetime, they didn't know what to do with me.
No, I'm sure. Spiritual lyrics back then, I mean, yes, we had Age of Aquarius, but that was about it.
I know, and the only reason that happened was because it was in a successful play.
Yes, exactly. You talked before the break about energy, and Amy, looking at your work, I mean, you put so much energy and so much intention into the incredible designs and the goddess couture that you create for people. Tell us a little bit about your process, and when you're imbuing that much energy into something, is it an uplifting, enlivening process, or do you find it quite draining?
Well, I love it so much, and my studio is my sacred space, and it has all the energy of everything I've created. And so when I walk into my studio, I'm just very stimulated and always have a few projects going on at the same time, because I seem to be an endless well of ideas. But I always made pieces for the wall, and then we started doing books, which gave me the opportunity to really explore in depth the whole series. For instance, the 78 cards of the tarot and our other oracles. I would do big series, 48 pieces at a time, 36, and I love that because it teaches me so much. I really channel it, so it teaches me, about what comes through me, universal truths, universal archetypes, and I like to explore all the cultures and different philosophies from different cultures. So it's a great passion of mine, which grows and seems to be a source of, our love and a source of what we share together. And when I started doing the fashions, it enabled me to make energy pieces for other people. So I feel it in the color, I feel it in the story that I do in my collages. I feel it in all the things that I search for, all the treasures that I find that were made in different eras, made by women, the laces that I use, the embroideries that I use. So it's a great process of connection.
Amy's been upcycling since before the word existed. She's been doing it ever since I met her.
Yeah, that's the truth, isn't it? I mean, when one reads about the process you use, I mean, when you're creating your goddess couture, all of the rare and precious materials as you described, I mean, 18th century brocade, Japanese kimonos, I mean, amulets and talismans, and then you meditate deeply on your subject, don't you? I mean, so what you're producing is much more than a piece of clothing.
Well, they're works of art, and the people that collect them certainly consider them as so. Once somebody has one, they generally start to collect them, and they're timeless pieces, so you can wear them. You can even hang them on the wall.
But do you never run out of inspiration? I mean, you've created so many beautiful pieces of art.
No, there's no such thing as artist block in this house.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm always inventing new tools and ways to express myself, different ways to put my art on wearable pieces, different ways to transfer my images, so that people can have an affordable piece as well as, one-of-a-kind piece. So I think, the times call for innovation, and I love that people can have a whole bunch of my images in a $20 book, or they can have, one-of-a-kind major tapestry for the wall. So to me, it's all the same thing.
Here we are sitting in Amy's studio, which is, the size of a house but with no walls. So there's these giant, incredibly gorgeous tapestries everywhere I look. And I can tell you that living with Amy's work immediately makes you live in an enchanted world.
Oh, it must do. It must do. I mean, one only has to look at, there are some beautiful oracle decks and, different kits out there. But yours seem to have an extra something. I'm particularly impressed with the creativity, Monty, that I imagine you're bringing into the design of some of the pieces. They're quite different.
Well, I'm support staff.
Well, he writes all the words that go with my pieces, which
Right.
is a wonderful collaboration. I do the pieces first. I don't overanalyze. I don't sketch it out first. I'm very spontaneous with lots of areas in my chart, and then Monty knows exactly what it means, so that's how we collaborate. I do the art first, and then he writes about it.
Yeah, I'm actually the illustrator. I illustrate her art with my words because I have such respect for it.
Yeah. So tell us about your two latest projects. You've just had a new book come out in April, Mindful Astrology, Finding Peace of Mind According to Your Sun, Moon and Rising Sign. And you've also got another Goddess Oracle coming out in September. So let's start with the Mindful Astrology.
Well, the Mindful Astrology is my result. I've been trying to get publishers to understand that the rising sign is the least understood, most powerful aspect of astrology. It's the sign that's on the horizon at the moment that you're born. And even though that sounds like it wouldn't make any difference at all, it turns out that that is how you interact with the world. In other words, if you were born when the sign Leo was on the horizon at the moment you're born like me, you're going to be more inclined to be more show-offy, less shy. But the thing is, a lot of people do not know their rising sign, and they don't understand why people perceive them in a way that goes against the way they're trying to send themselves out into the world. And the rising sign is the answer. So I wanted to get a deal, and I got a deal. Thank you, Quarto.
So we call, our book is about the sun, moon, and rising sun. We call that your celestial trilogy, which creates a portrait of who you are, and our book makes it really easy to find your chart and then look up all those three aspects of yourself and the people you love and your friends, and we make it fun. We like to make all of our creations fun, but it goes deep, and it gives you insights into your character and your strengths and your weaknesses and why people project themselves the way they project them, depending on the rising sign.
And now in social media, you have a lot of people who get our books or somebody else's books, and they hang up their shingle, and they're big TikTok astrologers. I've been doing this since the 70s,
and done thousands and thousands of readings.
I'm really good at it, and when we do our books, I'm good enough about it to make it simple and fun, because it's like the clowns in the Western rodeos. They're really good writers. You have to be really good to have fun with something. So we have fun in the book, and we've gotten the best feedback. First of all, it sold out in 3 weeks, so the first printing. So we're very pleased with that.
Well, we love how astrology is so popular now. Again, I mean, I think when we were young in the 60s, it had a big surge. And, of course, it's been going on all this time.
Right.
But I think, among millennials and younger people, they're getting into it the way we did when we were young.
Well, also, the lockdowns have made all of us monks in a Himalayan cave. So everybody has been forced to confront, A, do I like where I live, and B, do I like who I am? And so in Amy's case, that's why we have the Wild Goddess Oracle, which is coming out. Also on Quarto, thank you very much. And
I was inspired because, as you know, during the lockdown, we had to confront our fears and try to enhance our intuition about what was real, what's really going on, what's the truth, what's the lie, and also somehow to make the best of it. So
Amy made 52 paper collages. I would come down every day. It was like the shoemaker's elves had been there, and she'd have made another one.
Well, I mean, that's that's my process to heal, and I put that energy into it, as we were saying before. But I felt, we all felt kind of powerless. Is this virus more powerful than us? Where do we find our power? And I kind of stepped into these powerful women that are created in the deck that are parts of ourselves. So, we have the survivor, and we have the sage, and all the different characteristics that we assigned to each of these cards. And we also have rituals and spells and empowering invocations for each card, because we love to do that in our books, to have little rituals that enhance the meaning of the card.
And it's gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. They've done such a wonderful job. And it's big. It's like a big art book of Amy's art, besides the deck of cards.
I think, I kind of tap into the pulse of what's happening at a particular time, and we're all trying to be more aware of cultural diversity, and more aware of what are true connections to each other. And in this time of, also at the same time, there's so much polarity and argument and people, pointing fingers at each other. So I wanted to find a way that we could connect and heal, because that's, to me, the important part of life, to bring the love back in.
Yeah, and talking of love, you say that astrology has become your language of love. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you understand astrology, you understand where your partner's coming from. And you understand and that can be romantic partner or other partner, and you can understand where your kids are coming from. That's why the rising sign is so important in mindful astrology. If you have a preverbal child and they're a Capricorn rising, they'll appear calm, like everything's okay. But meanwhile, inside, they have the same needs as everybody else. So it's a good thing to understand astrology, and so that you can have yet another roadmap to the person that you're trying to interact with.
And not to expect other people to be like us, because that's the beauty of astrology. It describes our individuality and our triggers and our quirks, and, we can appreciate that and be more tolerant of that, and that creates more harmony.
And people might say, well, you're just applying stuff to, just because you're an Aquarius, you think you can get away with being crazy. I say, okay, fine, but if it works for us and we've been married for 46 years, what do you care? It's what works.
Yeah. Well, I think so many people are beginning to see that there's a lot more to astrology than, we've been led to believe. It's been dumbed down for a long time. It's been dismissed, but I think it is a very, very deep science. And I think a lot of people want to know more, but of course they get a bit put off when they realise what might be involved. Although they can also go to computers these days. But I think that giving people the, sun sign, ascendant, and the moon sign is really a good enough handle for most people to have, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, because when we go to astrology conventions, instead of hello, my name is Monte, they give you something that has a space for your sun, moon, and rising sign. And it is the most fun thing in the world, if you know astrology, to see the person's name, but also their sun, moon, and rising sign.
And we're so delighted that these days so many people do know their sun, moon, and rising sign, and you can immediately make a connection and start talking about what's real, and have sort of an immediate understanding of where that person's coming from, and share yours with them. I love that. I'm always asking people about their astrology, and even if someone knows their sun sign, it gives you a start of a great conversation.
Yeah, but nowadays when you're checking out, you can speak to the person who's checking you out. They know their sun, moon, and rising sign. It's crazy.
Yeah, more and more people do. I mean, there was a time when if I mentioned astrology, people's eyes would roll, but nowadays they seem to, tell me, what do you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, we try and make it so that people can do it yourself. We're the DIY people. We want people to be able to read for themselves. Not that we're trying to take money away from the readers out there, because there's lots of good ones, and I think at a certain point you can't read yourself, if it's something that you're all worked up about.
Or you want a fresh take or a fresh perspective on it. But our books are great for beginners, but they're also great, even if you know astrology really well.
Yeah.
So of all of the different, divination techniques that you've studied and employ, what's your favourite? Is it astrology, the tarot?
Well, it's yes, they're wonderful.
We're picking our favorite child.
but my favorite thing is that writing all these books and figuring out all these systems and thinking all this way has made me psychic. So I have intuitions about things.
Yes, they're sort of like workout tools for your third eye. So as you explore all these things, you get more and more intuitive.
Yeah.
And I do them all every day. Tarot, astrology, and all.
You do?
Every day, even if I am psychic, because you want a second opinion.
So you're looking at what the day is going to be like for you every day.
Yeah.
If it's an important day, yeah.
And also for the world, he likes to tune in to what a lesson might be for all of us.
Maybe in the next segment we can talk about.
Well, I'd love to talk about that in the next segment. Before we go to the break, tell me what you pulled up for today.
Well, today, I knew today was going to be a very odd day because because of the astrology, but here we are talking after a little hiccup, and so it was nothing that surprised me. But because there are aspects to the planet Uranus or Uranus, the butt of all astrological jokes, usually indicate sudden out of the blue crazy stuff, and it didn't disappoint.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes you think, you wish it would, but it doesn't.
Sometimes there's no way around it.
No, you've got to go through it. Okay, we're going to take another break now. You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with the world's foremost creators of interactive personal guidance systems, visionary artist, illustrator, fashion and oracle designer Amy Zerner, and astrologer, tarot scholar and self-help author Monte Farber. We'll be back with more from Monte Farber and Amy Zerner after the break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes' flagship radio show, What Is Going On. As a long-time editor, book judge, spiritual magazine publisher and radio host, I've read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors and teachers, so I know what's worth reading and what isn't. Now, with the spiritual book market growing increasingly crowded, more and more people are seeking my help in finding the authentic voices, the empowering tools, and the genuine skip the BS guidance that will make the most difference to their spiritual development. So I decided to make it easier by bringing my knowledge, experience, and considerable network of contacts together in the No BS Spiritual Book Club. There are no ads, no joining fees, no obligations, and no BS. Just an ever-growing library compiled by recognisable and respected names of the 10 best books that helped them the most on their journeys. Plus free book excerpts, audios, and live video interviews where you can quiz them about their spiritual journeys and their 10 best list choices. Your time and money are valuable, your spiritual journey even more so. If you're looking for genuine guidance from people who have walked this path before you, check out Sedgbeer.com. Click on the No BS Spiritual Book Club tab and join the club. That's Sedgbeer.com, SEDGBEER.com. I'll see you there.
If I could be you.
And you could be me?
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way.
To get inside.
Each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. Monty, starting in 2008, you made a series of uncannily accurate psychic predictions about world events, the economy, and specific stocks. And these were published in video clips for James Cramer's popular financial website, thestreet.com. Tell us, are you still doing this?
No, he found out that was going on and put an end to it. But it was a lot of fun. We were originally interviewed because we're successful in a business sense. And, Amy's at Bergdorf Goodman, which is Neiman Marcus, which is the top of the fashion heap. And my books have, sold millions of copies. Our books have sold millions of copies. So the interviewer came in and did the whole interview, and then at the end asked me for predictions and put them up. And I was 7 out of 8.
He did just recently predict about the crypto craze surging again, and he gave a very specific date.
Yeah, because Jupiter just retrograded back into Aquarius, which doesn't mean anything to anyone who doesn't know astrology, but when Jupiter and Aquarius, you put them together, Jupiter is good luck, and Aquarius is wild and crazy in crypto. And so the last time Jupiter was in Aquarius was when Bitcoin had gone to 64,000, and it's on its way up again. And this time, my friends and I, astrologers, think it'll go to 80,000. Wow. But we'll see. We'll see. You got to assume that you could be wrong. I don't think I'm some kind of prophet.
But he also, assesses this time as a time to innovate, or
pay the price.
Price if you don't innovate.
Well,
all the astrology now, it's stimulating us to try new things, to let go of the old ways, to invent new ways.
Right. When people keep saying that we're going to go back to normal, I'm like, no. You're not. That ain't happening. Because when Saturn and Pluto came together in Capricorn back in December of 2019, actually, just before the pandemic started, astrologers have known something major was going to happen. A paradigm shift was going to happen. I wasn't the only one, certainly. They've been watching this for decades and hundreds of years, actually, because it's only happened 5 times since the time of Jesus, and every time it happens, it's a major, major paradigm shift.
Well, tell about this December.
Well, this December is the final of the Saturn-Uranus squares, and that is what is calling upon all of us to innovate our lives, to bring newness into our life consciously. It can mean a new world order, and that new world order can mean lockdowns forever with people telling you what to do.
We don't want that one.
No, but it could also mean a new world order where people realize help isn't coming, and the technology exists to make us all individually self-sufficient as much as we can, and that's the way we should be going, which is, the enchanted world is not woo-woo. We're very realistic here. We understand.
And Monty, all before the pandemic and during it, telling people to make their base secure, which means take care of your body, make your home a place that's sacred and that can make you feel protected.
And I think it's going to be necessary again for this kind of Christmas, because there's a lot of astrological things coming up for the holidays, and so it's always a good idea to be prepared. Yeah. I was never a Boy Scout, but I like being prepared.
Yeah. Do you see, just when it appears to be safe to go back into the water, another variant arises. Do you see this pandemic easing at any point in the next year or disappearing altogether?
Well, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I don't think, has the flu ever gone away? In the United States at least, they had no flus. They had no flu problems.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to go away, but I also think that the new variants are not as deadly. So I think it's. But once again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not telling anybody what to do.
But we are very much into wellness and have been since we met. In other words, doing things that strengthen our immune system, learning what personally works for each of us, which astrology really helps you do to understand what you might be prone to, because astrology describes parts of the body, it describes our temperament, it describes our energy. So I think there has not been, from my point of view, and we wrote a book called Astrology for Wellness that addresses our tips and techniques, but that there's not been enough emphasis on people, what they can do, even early treatment, preventative treatment. There's so much fear in the media that I don't think is very healthy, and people have to be very vigilant about what they're putting into their minds as well as their bodies.
Exactly. My spiritual journey started with reflexology and immediately went over to food, because the 70-year-old man who was still teaching in my high school was still teaching because he was stronger than all the other younger people, and the reason was he lived on natural things like sprouts, which he grew himself. So I got into that right away, and I've been eating that way since I'm 16. Not sprouts, but eating naturally.
And I think people get addicted to the news, without thinking what is the motivation behind a lot of the news, to get people to watch. So it's like incendiary, getting people all worked up, so they'll keep watching.
Right. I haven't listened to the news or the radio. Except OMTimes radio, actually.
Which is healing.
I only want to put healing things into my body now, and I think that's something that people are realizing.
Well, I think that we are definitely in a time of self-empowerment and understanding that we have the power to create our own enchanted world. And, by our outlook, as you say, mentally, physically, emotionally, we have the choice.
Yes.
And it takes some work, it takes a lot of attention, but we can make it enjoyable and share it with other people that are on the same path with us, which certainly makes it more enjoyable.
We've been very fortunate to have been able to spend quality time with brilliant, genius-level people like our friend Dr. Jerry Epstein, who wrote Healing Visualizations. And he would always say things like, do you have a gun to your head? Why are you acting like you're so scared and anxious, and he'd tell us things like, separate your intention from your attention. Don't dwell on things. You want to change it. Okay, you're going to change it. So now get on with life. And people like Arnold Kaiserling, who had known Jung personally, and Gurdjieff, who was his friend no less, and he would say things like, "Well, Jung said to me," and you just couldn't believe it. But he would always say, "If you can't laugh, it's not sacred,"
which is such good medicine.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And you knew Zecharia Sitchin as well, didn't you?
Yes, very, very well. And he actually asked Amy and I to do the children's book version of his work, which I've never done, but I would love to do, because he understood that I knew his work backwards and forward.
I mean, if anyone gives you a new perspective on on the human condition and our origin, the origin of humanity, it's certainly, I think we have to gain new perspectives. And just on a simple level, doing an oracle reading helps you step out of what you're attached to. So say you are in an anxious state, do a little meditation, take some sacred time in your day, lay out the cards, gain a new perspective, see it from a different viewpoint, a different angle. If just on the very basic level, that's what it helps you do.
And like I said, I started out my whole spiritual journey from getting my gym teacher's thumbs pressed into my arches, and he said, "Okay, now try and touch your toes, Mr. Back Pain," and it didn't hurt at all. So once you start realizing that there is an interconnectedness, and a magical interconnectedness that actually has a scientific basis.
So if I'm sitting here, hating a politician or giving my power or getting upset at the news, that energy is going out to other people, and it's like a wildfire. And you can feel that in general with what's been going on in the world.
Yeah, I used to do security in the film business, and I had a friend who was a martial artist who lived with me for a while and taught me a lot of stuff, and then I read on my own. And all the stories are about not fighting of the great masters, and the other stories are about how if you get upset or if you hate your enemy or if you do all these kind of things, you're going to lose because you are hardening yourself. Yeah, you're disempowering yourself by giving in to the easy emotions, the hate, the anger, the resentment.
The blame.
Yeah, and you're right, they are easy emotions. They're an easy place to go.
Yes. And it's also, life is enjoyable, but there is a level of self-discipline required. You can't just go punching people and being mad at people.
That's why they call all these things a practice.
Yeah. So tell us about your next project, because I know you guys don't stop, do you?
No, because why should we?
Well, one thing that we're very excited about is the big art and fashion book that comes out in November, which is sort of a retrospective of everything we've done, all of our books, my fashion, my wall pieces, and about my process. It's going to be 323 color plates, and we worked long and hard on that one.
Yeah, and for those of you who can't wait, you can get our other books, like the Enchanted Tarot has 78 of Amy's tapestries in it. The Creativity Oracle has 80 of details from Amy's work. Or if you happen to have the Taschen books on astrology, and there's another one on tarot, Amy has her work included there with the ancient illuminated manuscripts and all the other stuff. There's Amy Zerner's work right in there.
And what we're just finishing up now is called the Intuition Oracle, because we realized from talking to so many people over the pandemic time that people really need to develop their intuition more and to use it and to honor it. And so we put everything that we've learned into this new oracle that comes out in June.
Cool. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have that inside us. We need to use it.
Yeah. But that's it. I mean, even if you have the best car in the world, if it sits in your driveway, the wheels are going to rot and or go square. We need to exercise who we are, just like you need to exercise your body.
And that's what guides us to the right choices and the right decisions and the right people, and especially now when we're confronted with so much propaganda and manipulation, on all different levels, to be more discerning and to listen to that gut instinct.
We come from the 60s. We don't trust anybody. No, I'm serious. I don't even trust myself on certain things. You have to. That's why I have Amy. If I'm not sure of something, it's not a good idea to trust the media, I think.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to use discernment. You've got to practice discernment and cultivate it. We're almost out of time. Just before we close, can you briefly tell us what kind of events online or classes you've got coming up?
Well, we're always doing contests when we have new books coming out, and since we have a new one coming in September, the Wild Goddess Oracle, people can enter to win some of my jewelry, some of my clothing.
So it's Amy Zerner, Z like zebra, E-R-N-E-R, and that's on Facebook and Instagram, and our newest Innovate or Pay the Price, TikTok.
We're on TikTok. And also we have a Zoom show every Monday called Ask the Oracles, and people can actually, it's all free. They can come on and ask questions, and we tune in with our friend Jeff Pulver and we use our decks and we use our psychic intuition to answer the questions.
Yeah, and we're actually going to move over to twitch.tv, and we're going to start having the show there.
And we're on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, so people can find out all that we're up to there.
Right, and we've just launched our new crypto coin, which is named after our
Sorry you asked,
yeah,
right?
really. Well, I told you, you have to innovate now or pay the price. So speaking of the price, we innovated a crypto coin through Rally.io, which stands for in and out.io, Rally.io. And it's the Zane coin, named after our cat Zane, who is 20 and a third years old and still going strong. God bless him. And it's so much fun. We are learning so much. And we discovered a new power couple who also has their own crypto coin. So that was exciting.
But The Enchanted World is our website that has all of my art and all of our books and all of my fashion.
Yeah,
and
it's all there.
People can also go and download a free copy of your Quantum Affirmations PDF.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, we're doing stuff all the time, so you ask the loaded question, and it's like Pandora's box.
Well, we really have to leave it there, I'm afraid, but I think that is more than enough to keep people happy and occupied for the rest of the pandemic, for as long as it lasts. Monte, Amy, thank you for joining us today. It's been a treat.
Thank you so much, Sandie.
We love you so much. We admire what you're doing so much.
Appreciate it so much.
And thank you to your audience for listening to us.
Thank you. Bye-bye, both. Mindful Astrology, Finding Peace of Mind According to Your Sun, Moon and Rising Sign is now available from Bookstars and online, and the Wild Goddess Oracle Deck and Guidebook, a 52-card deck and guidebook, divination and ritual for living an empowered life, will be released in September. And I can't remember the rest of what Monty and Amy have going, but
Neither can we.
Have another listen to the show and you'll find out. But in the meantime, you can go and look at amyzerner.com and look at Amy's fashion, art, jewellery and the Enchanted World collection. And you can visit theenchantedworld.com and montefarber.com. That's it for tonight's show. Thank you for your company. I'll be back at the same time next week with another edition of What Is Going On. Till then, it's goodbye from me.